Brave men rejoice in adversity, just as brave soldiers triumph in war. Good evening, namaste, or adab. Welcome to our special session in honor of our soldiers who fought fearlessly during the Kargil War. Kargil War, also known as the Kargil conflict, was an armed conflict fought between India and Pakistan from May to July 1999 in the Kargil district of Jammu and Kashmir and elsewhere along the line of control. Today, we have with us Brigadier Subhash Rangi, who commanded the Kargil Brigade under hostile climatic conditions. So let's welcome Sir and let's know from him what all happened and how did it all happen. A very good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Shweta, and good evening to all our viewers.
Thank you so much, sir, that you have, spared some time for us and you have come to share this session with us, which is such an important session on this occasion of Kargil Diwas. So we are really grateful to you, sir, for having this session with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shweta, and thank you so much for having offered me this opportunity to interact with you and your viewers on this auspicious day that's Kargil Diwas.
Yes.
Let me first of all extend my gratitude to all our soldiers who are presently, as on today, guarding our frontiers. And my special salute to all the martyrs who laid down their life during Kargil conflict and their families, their widows, their mothers, fathers, parents, everybody who are bearing with this loss. My special salute to the families on this occasion.
Thank you so much, sir. We are really honored that you are here to address all of us. And we have so much of respect for all our soldiers who fought at that time. So, before starting the conversation, I really want to know about your tenure of service during all these years. You have spent 35 years in the Indian Army. You have led UN operations and Operation Black Tornado, Mumbai attack against terrorists. So, how would you define your entire journey?
Shweta, you can imagine armed forces life is always full of excitement, adventure, fun and frolic. At the same time, very challenging and
Absolutely.
demanding.
Absolutely, sir.
I spent about 3.5 decades in this one. You can imagine a lad from the interiors of Haryana moving out for training to National Defense Academy, graduating over to Indian Military Academy, and finally getting the President's commission into a new regiment, totally new. That time we had just been recognized by the government of India in 1976, and I joined in 1978.
Right.
That is Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry.
Okay.
I'm very grateful to the God Almighty that I, being an infantry soldier, I got the opportunity of being an instructor, a brigade major, instructor at the staff college. I had the opportunity of serving in Somalia under hostile conditions
Yeah.
and then raising two infantry battalions, one my own battalion, 15 Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry, and thereafter 161 TA Home and Hearth. That's in J&K.
Okay.
So overall, uh, I feel highly obliged to the Almighty who gave me an opportunity to lead my troops in the valley as well as during the Operation Black Tornado on 26/11 in Mumbai. What else can a young lad or a boy from the interiors of Haryana, what else can you expect? I think
Absolutely.
I'm more than satisfied with my span of life in army.
That's lovely, sir. That's really nice. You must be having, a lot of experiences during this tenure, and you commanded the famous Kargil Brigade also under the hostile climatic conditions. So I really want to know that what kind of a mindset one is expected to keep throughout being in such a critical situation, and how do you motivate others also during that period?
Uh, Shweta, certainly the conditions in Kargil and high altitude, especially in Ladakh, where the
Yeah,
entire terrain is as hostile as the enemy.
true,
They,
absolutely, sir.
the terrain and the climate don't give you another opportunity,
Yes,
and that too in conditions like eyeball to eyeball, where you are just
yeah,
about at places not more than 50 meters away from the enemy, right, straight under the observation.
right, absolutely, sir.
So under these circumstances, when you're operating, you take all precautions to make sure that you remain healthy.
Yes, that's true.
Your working conditions are to the tune of -20, -30, and even below that.
Right,
So therefore, in order to remain healthy, first of all, you should be mentally healthy. Secondly, physically healthy.
yes,
To make sure that you are mentally healthy, never leave your troops or soldiers alone. Always be
right,
with them.
yes,
Communicate with them. And wherever you send them or wherever you go yourself, communicate with them and send them in buddy pairs or in small groups
right, sir.
so that one can help each other.
Each other, absolutely.
Under circumstances like eyeball to eyeball communication, invariably under such posts, you are either crawling through the trench or we had prepared tunnels where you are under direct observation of the enemy. You are moving your own self along with the arms and ammunition through those tunnels
Right, right,
and get onto the as close as close to the enemy as possible, and then try and take on the enemy at any given opportunity.
right, sir.
As far as the mindset is concerned, I was telling you that you have to remain occupied, keep your troops occupied,
Yes, absolutely.
never leave them alone, and make sure that you give them full confidence as far as their training is concerned. Make sure that they are fully trained under those circumstances, that is high altitude
Right.
environment, and ensure that their logistic backup is fully assured.
Yeah, that's very
This
important.
logistic, yeah, this logistic backup includes your arms, ammunition, their availability, your logistics, oil, lubricants, and heating oil, etc., and at the same time, medical aid. As long as a soldier in the forwardmost trench knows that he is going to be evacuated in time in case of crisis, he will give you more than 100%.
True, sir. Absolutely, sir. So that means that there's a lot of planning and a lot of strategies that takes place in a war. So how did it all happen when you got the first intel of the war? When you received it, the first intel, then how did it all happen?
Uh, Shweta, first time they were spotted in general area Batalic by Yaketians or certain locals.
Right, right, sir.
That was around 6th, 7th of May. And
Okay,
then gradually the infiltrators were spotted in other areas as well, in Mashko, in Dras, etc. And by about mid May, their general areas and approximate strength was identified. that they are at number of places and
Right.
in good strength.
Good strength.
And
Yeah.
one could also analyze or visualize that at that time I'm talking, that they were adequately stocked, well prepared for an operation or at
Right.
least for a conflict, and at the same time they are well geared up, entrenched.
Right.
They were being supported by their own heavy weapons, including artillery shelling.
Okay.
So, as long as this input came in, as a commander, I'm sure they all must have re-corroborated the intelligence or the inputs. Thereafter, try to identify the total extent of infiltration or encroachment into our territory, and then they would have been surely isolated wherever possible. They were detrenched or they were thrown off, and followed by preparation of the firm base for additional troops who
Right.
simultaneously would have been requisitioned from the higher headquarters, which happened on ground as well. And these
Right.
additional troops, when they came in without the winter clothing, some of them, and
Okay.
since they were moving from lower altitude to the higher altitude, they needed acclimatization and winter
Yeah.
clothing.
Right. Right.
So
Absolutely.
this whole process took some time, by during which the further ingress or encroachment by the infiltrators was seized and firm bases were prepared or provided. And then the additional troops were launched simultaneously. At the highest level, decisions were taken to get in additional support of heavier guns like
Right.
artillery and air force like helicopters and fighter aircrafts. When you are fully geared up, then the operation thereafter took off in full swing. And that is how they were thrown off on this particular day from our encroached territory back into their own areas.
Their own.
Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And how were the supplies being managed during this situation? Like all of a sudden, it all happened. So how was it all managed during that time?
Uh, Shweta, how it happened, basically, one can assume easily that Kargil per se is in the valley. You
Yeah.
have, as you stand at Kargil and face northward, you are facing Pakistan. And to
Okay.
your right, that is to the east is Leh. And just short of Kargil is Batalik. Leh is about almost 6 to 7 hours, 250 odd kilometers from there. And to the west, that is to your left, when you are standing in Kargil and facing north, to your left is Dras in the immediate close vicinity, followed by Sonamarg and Srinagar. That's again about 250 odd kilometers. And between Dras and Srinagar, you have the Zojila Pass.
Okay.
So Kargil has got Suru River passing through it, and on from Dras side, that is from west to east, you have the Shingo River. They both meet at Kargil, and after confluencing at Kargil, they move into Pakistan, and within about 8 odd kilometers, they join Indus River, which is flowing from Leh towards Batalik and enters Pakistan. Why I'm highlighting this is geographically very important, that we are at a lower altitude while in Kargil.
Right.
But since we are in the valley, the nearby heights, while we are at around 10 to 11,000 feet, the nearby heights are to the tune of 17 to 18 and a half thousand feet.
Okay.
And this altitude suddenly rises within a short span of distance. So therefore, one has to visualize the amount of difficulty
Yes, absolutely, sir.
one must have while one must be facing while negotiating these altitudes. And certain climb at that altitude, starting from say 10,000 or 11,000 to 17 or 18,000, you need a couple of days, even if you are fully acclimatized. And
Right,
especially
right.
for troops who were moved from the valley, it was all the more difficult to move in fresh
Yes.
troops directly to those altitudes.
And carrying all the stuff along with them.
Carrying all the stuff. So, therefore, what normally happens is that during that time, Kargil area, including Mashko, Dras, Kargil, and Batalik, was thinly held comparatively, I'm saying, as compared to today.
Right.
And therefore, there used to be some posts which used to be left vacant or vacated during winters. We call them in army parlance as winter vacated posts. I had gone onto one of those posts, which was at about 18,000 feet after climbing, negotiating through rope ladders and all. And while peeping across the LC, one could make out, yes, if I was given an opportunity, probably I also could have ventured out in going across and occupying important heights which were
Yeah.
overlooking their highway on the other side, which were just visible right under my nose.
Right,
So
right.
probably the enemy commanders would have felt the similar way and ventured onto our side. Now, while vacating these posts at various levels, you leave behind some important oil for warming and dry rations, which don't go
Right.
bad in about 4 to 6 months.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
likewise, at certain altitudes, you leave back the rations which are not likely to go bad and you keep stocking them simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Only the fresh rations and arms. These are the weapons and equipment, etc., you bring back along with you. The rest of the things which are not really required to be ferried down are left behind.
Left
So,
behind.
therefore,
Right.
to that extent, our logistics are, say, about 20 to 30% are self catered for. Additionally, uh, you require a lot of local help, local support in terms of ponies, porters, and
Yes.
likewise. And wherever possible, you move the logistic support till the roadhead, and thereafter it is ferried through pony, porters, and manually through the troops. So it becomes really difficult. One really has to take a breath after every almost 10 to 12 steps or maybe
Yeah.
15 steps. One needs to take a breath maybe for 10 to 15 seconds and then start negotiating your
Yes.
rest of the journey. So it's really difficult as far as the logistics is concerned. Remember that even during Second World War, countries like Germany lost due to break in logistic support and bad weather.
Right. So that's so important. Such a crucial thing which has to be taken care of.
Yes.
Absolutely, sir. And you are really, focused and talked about such an important thing and the struggles and the challenges that our soldiers face while not just fighting beforehand. The preparations are also so difficult.
Sorry, I couldn't make out the last portion of your question.
I said I was just emphasizing on the point that you just discussed, that
Yes, yes,
not even the war is difficult for the soldiers. The fighting is difficult. The preparations of for that is also very difficult for them.
absolutely. Preparation for the war is
Yeah,
equally important.
equally important. Absolutely, sir. So, is there any particular incident that you like to highlight during your command of the Kargil Brigade?
Uh, Shweta, as I told you that training is very important, At that
Yes.
altitude, a man feels confident only if is well trained at that altitude. He may be any good at lower altitude, but if he is not keeping medically fit at higher
Right.
altitude, then he is immediately brought down to lose height and evacuated from there.
Okay.
Once you are at that altitude, make sure that a soldier is fully trained. And
Definitely.
we in our brigade, during my tenure, we made sure that whatever depth areas we could find, wherever, though all three battalions of mine were most of the time we were under direct observation of the enemy. But wherever we could find plain areas, we converted those areas into training and training
Okay.
setup. We had established obstacle training course, we had established firing ranges, and we had established rockcraft negotiating areas, that is to train how to negotiate a rock, climb on it, thereafter switch off from one rock to the second rock, and you climb the rock, thereafter assault. So if you train a person before he moves into his own bunker or own post, if
Hmm.
he can negotiate and go through this, he is 200% confident of his stamina and his capability.
Right. Right.
He is to ensure that the troops are who are in the forward areas are rotated to fall back into the training area, undergo training, and again fall back. Troops moving out on leave and other postings were again made to undergo this training process, and thereafter they are only sent to the forward areas. I remember, like I communicated to you, Shweta, that at the confluence of river Shingo and Suru, we have a post which is the lowest post in my AOR, area of responsibility, that is post 43.
Okay.
Post 43 in Kargil is also supposed to be a post where your flag meetings are held between the two countries or two armies.
Right.
So we used to conduct the peacetime correction. We used to conduct our talks on these posts, and that is the post which was directly. Most of the post was under observation from the enemy. So therefore, we had
Okay.
created tunnels, we had created trenches, and one had to almost crawl to negotiate from one trench to the second trench. In a similar instance, in one of the posts of my central battalion, one of the section post was almost hanging below the cliff. Below the cliff was Indian post, and above the cliff was the Pakistani post.
Pakistani post.
When we were improving upon our when we were improving upon our defenses and concretizing them, the enemy objected to it, and they
Right.
won't let us construct it. So you'll be surprised that it was a Gurkha battalion that time. You'll be
Hmm.
surprised that the post commander came out with his kukri, jumped across into the no man's land, and within about 20 meters was the Pakistani soldier, and he told him in Gurkhali, if you dare come near my post, I'll
Hmm.
chop off your head with kukri.
Right.
So these are certain incidents
Yeah.
which always keep me live and always give me a lot of confidence that with these kind of soldiers, these kind of activities of our Jawans, you can rest be assured that our borders are safe.
Absolutely, sir. That's true. And so, as we were talking about the hostile conditions, the temperature in which they fought was also minus 10 degrees Celsius. So, what all difficulties did the soldiers face at that time due to that temperature?
Uh, Shweta, temperature in some of the posts went as low as minus 30 to minus 40. I was quoting that Bajrang post where you could negotiate only during good weather, and that too through rope ladders. So before we sent any troops there, or before we send a person, we make sure that he is fully acclimatized, medically fit,
Right.
because switching over or changing over the troops from those places becomes very, very difficult.
Very difficult. Absolutely.
So it's only the rarest of the rare who ventures into such altitude and stays there continuously for 2 to 3 months. So acclimatization, stocking, and to keep the troops warm, one has to ensure that your heaters and K oil, that is kerosene oil heaters, etc., and
Right.
warm clothes are fully available all 24 by 7 and 365 days of the year.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's very
One has
important.
to also ensure that
Yeah.
the soldier is fully confident of his medical evacuation, because
Hmm.
if a person feels sick, what happens to him? So therefore, we used to ensure that at each section post, one of the individual or two of them know how to provide first aid and how to evacuate the soldiers. Now, evacuation also puts a commander in dilemma, starting from a
Right.
section commander to a platoon commander, company commander, battalion commander, or a brigade commander. Let's
Yes.
say out of 10 soldiers, if one falls sick, how do we evacuate? And if
Yeah.
you send 4 people with him, then you are left only with 5.
Right.
So your
Absolutely.
strength gets depleted.
Strength. Yeah.
So these are the challenges one faces through these kind of terrain and these kind of climatic conditions.
No doubt, sir. Our soldiers are doing so much for us to keep us safe. So, any expectation that you have from the civilians in such a situation?
Sure, Shweta, like during 65, 71 and all, we found almost every household coming out in the state of Punjab and supporting the soldiers who are passing through Punjab, Haryana towards the
Right.
border. Similarly,
Yes.
one feels very high spirited and one feels
Absolutely, sir.
elated
That's true.
if this kind of a population, which our Ladakhi civilian brethren provided us, if they are happy, we are happy. And if they support us, we go and provide our 200% at the other end.
Absolutely.
At the same time, for administrative and logistic support, we all depend on them. Not 100%,
Yes.
but at least to a larger extent.
Right. Right.
And let me share with you that in Ladakh, we have an animal called SD, small donkey.
Okay.
It's really small, but you'll be surprised that its sustenance is so good. Naturally, it can sustain itself without
Yeah.
water, without food, maybe for 24 to 48 hours. Whatever little dry grass in one of the under the boulder or one of the corners it finds, it fills its stomach and carries on
Right.
without bothering about falling off the cliff or falling down, because its sillet is low, it's small, so the possibility of toppling over is minimal. So we always
Right.
used to consider ourselves lucky that we nature has provided us these kind of animals also at that altitude.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So that's a great help from the civilians also, if we look
Absolutely,
at it. So,
absolutely.
any message that you would like to give to our youngsters to encourage them to join the armed forces?
Let me assure our youngsters and our other civilian brethren that I feel there is no other service which can provide you excitement, adventure, opportunities, and full of challenges.
Right.
But the
Absolutely.
three services, Army, Navy, or Air Force.
Air Force.
So if one wants to serve the country through the armed forces and don the uniform, maybe olive green, the blue, or the white. At the same
That's a,
time,
yeah,
yeah, at the
sorry.
same time, let me also advise them that it's the dedication, hard work, and the honesty which will pay them to join the armed forces and also to sustain themselves not only in the armed forces but in rest of the life as well. I find the younger generation getting engrossed in social media and mobile and whatever we have in other unwanted messages. I would suggest that one should refrain as far as possible. Use the social media for your important messages
Right,
and
absolutely.
for gathering inputs and references through the Google and other apps available, and avoid wasting time on unwanted messages and unwanted activities observed on the social media.
Well, so that's a wonderful message that you have shared with our youngsters and our audience as well. The details that you have shared with us of the Kargil war are something that we never knew. That how much we all know that our soldiers do a lot for us. But what actually goes into that planning, what actually goes into that preparations is something that we are just unaware of because we are at a distance, looking at the things. So we are really grateful to you, sir, for sparing your time and sharing all these details with us and making us little more closer to our soldiers, taking us little more closer to that patriotism again and again. So thank you so much, sir, for being here, for sharing everything with us on this Kargil Diwas. It really means a lot to us, to our nation, and to all our audience, all the people who are watching us. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
sir. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you so much for providing me this opportunity. And thank you, all viewers. At the same time, once again, our salute to the martyrs and their family who have done so
Absolutely.
much for us. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir. And thank you so much, audience, for being connected to us. Thanks a lot. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep smiling. Thank you, everyone.